Well, biggest one is multiple systems. Systems are fundamentally built for different environments. So we have acute systems, we have primary care systems, community systems. Those systems sometimes will talk to each other because they're the same system. Sometimes they'll have a relatively limited interoperability between systems. Sometimes there'll be third-party systems that can link between them. And sometimes the state of play within an organisation in terms of what's recorded in the first place is very different. So you can have IT systems out in the community as the primary clinical record. Looking with an acute trust, the primary clinical record is still paper. So when you're trying to look at the two technical systems that they're using, having a technical solution actually is only part of the problem if they're not putting the data in there in the first place. So that whole estate and the way each parts of those IT potentially can fit together is absolutely critical before you can start to plan a service. You've got to know what's potentially available.
So the main hurdles that we faced was about getting ownership of the data that needed to be collected from EMIS. That was tricky because that data is actually held in the community setting and wasn't our data to then produce into a report that the CCG were asking for. So that was a significant hurdle and took a lot of negotiating with the CCG and IT to overcome.
I mean, the key people are the clinicians, to get the clinicians on side, because the clinicians often will not realise what the technology can be doing, and the technology can give them the tools to be able to deliver the service that they want. So without getting the clinical engagement, you never get anywhere. Once you've got the clinical engagement, then that's the point at which you can bring in your commissioners. And the commissioners of the service, usually they know what it is that they want to, they know ultimately the kind of thing that they want to commission, but they don't necessarily know the mechanics of it. So if you bring the two together, you actually start getting the things to move forwards. I think first thing to do is to look at what you've got, look at what bits plug together, be rational about it, because being too protective about one system is not when you're looking at a wider estate isn't particularly good. But you need to look at what you've got and make the most out of what you've got before you then go out and look at what's missing. Because again, there's a tendency when you have multiple systems for people to go, right, we've got 5 systems, right, we need to go out and buy a 6th system because these 5 systems don't talk to each other. And then what you end up with is 6 systems that don't talk to each other. And then of course the data doesn't flow into the 6th system and everyone goes, oh, that doesn't work. Well, we need to just go out and procure a 7th system, So looking at what you've got, looking at what's possible with what you've got, what's possible with the national programme, so things like summary care record, integration, what little tweak you could do over here that would mean that the system suddenly starts working over there. It's those bits that need to be done first. Once you've done that, you can then look at and go, okay, well, where are our gaps? And when you can identify the gaps, looking at the roadmaps for the systems, and then at that point think about, well, maybe we need another system to plug a relatively small gap. But yeah, it's take a good wide view before you start.
So we made sure that we had some admin time actually built in at contract level, and this allowed us to recruit somebody from the community who had the EMIS skills and knowledge. And that's just proved absolutely vital because secondary care clinicians are not used to using primary care databases.
It was really important to kind of have an iterative process with the informatics team and an ongoing discussion about how things were going and testing in different environments to recognise that it wasn't always going to work the first time round, and kind of accepting that and having that engagement with the ICT team to be able to tackle those issues as they arose. I would say it's really important actually to, when you're working on any technology in the NHS, to recognise that the market is going to change in the next 2, 3 to 5 years. So designing any work that you do in a way which is as far as possible kind of technology agnostic, I think is really important. The solution you choose now might be the most appropriate now, but in a few years' time you'll have all kinds of new technologies and different clinical systems that will be interacting with, and it may no longer kind of be the most relevant. So designing, but also choosing technologies and providers to work with who are aware and understand that fact that they're working in a kind of an agile market environment. And so the kind of old world of IT procurement and solutions is, no longer fit for the environment that we work in. So you want to be careful with the suppliers that you choose to work with as well, I think, and hope that they recognise the importance of that too.